Hey, welcome back to the channel. In 1918, as the world finally emerged from the shadows of war, a small silver coin was struck, so scarce, so coveted, that today it is valued at over $150,000. This is more than money. This is history, identity, and rarity crystallized in silver. Let's moving on. First up, the 1910 Australian shilling stands as one of the most important milestones in the history of Australian numismatics, representing the very first official silver shilling struck for the nation following Federation in 1901. Its historical significance alone makes it an exceptional piece, but when paired with its scarcity and outstanding preservation, the coin commands immense respect and attention in the marketplace. Valued at $42,000, this shilling transcends mere collectability. It is a cornerstone of national identity and a tangible relic from the dawn of Australia's independent coinage system. Produced at the London Mint before Australia's own mints were fully operational, the coin features the crowned effigy of King Edward VII on the obverse, a design that reflects imperial strength and global connection during a time when Australia was still forging its place within the Commonwealth. The reverse depicts the classic Australian coat of arms, a striking emblem that includes the kangaroo and emu, standing proudly on either side of a shield, symbolizing the balance of heritage and the promise of a young federation. This design would become foundational in Australia's coinage identity, further magnifying its cultural and historical resonance. Condition plays a vital role in the valuation of this masterpiece, with collectors and investors alike seeking examples that exhibit sharp strikes, crisp definition, and radiant luster that have stood the test of more than a century. High-grade specimens such as this one are astonishingly rare, given the natural attrition that comes with circulation and the relatively modest original mintage. To encounter a coin of this caliber today is to encounter a survivor, a museum-worthy treasure that has been meticulously preserved against the passage of time. Beyond its aesthetic and numismatic appeal, the 1910 Australian shilling is a financial asset with proven market strength. Rare Australian pre-decimal coins, particularly those from foundation years, have demonstrated consistent appreciation in value, often outperforming traditional asset classes due to their scarcity and unwavering demand from collectors worldwide. At $42,000, this coin is not merely a purchase, it is an investment in history, prestige, and rarity. For the discerning collector, it represents the opportunity to own a tangible link to Australia's first independent steps in coinage, a piece that resonates with stories of nationhood and heritage that no modern minting could ever replicate. Next up, the 1911 Australian shilling marks the continuation of a remarkable journey in Australian numismatic history, following directly after the debut 1910 issue. Valued today at $20,000, this coin occupies a place of prestige among collectors, combining beauty, heritage, and scarcity in equal measure. Struck at the Royal Mint in London during the reign of King George V, it represents a new chapter in the post-Federation narrative, as Australia began to establish its unique identity through coinage while still firmly connected to the traditions of the British Empire. The obverse features the dignified portrait of King George V, a design that heralded stability and continuity in the early years of the monarch's reign. The reverse once again displays the emblematic Australian coat of arms, with its kangaroo and emu guardians symbolizing a young but confident nation ready to step forward into the world. Collectors prize this coin not only for its design and rarity, but also for the historical context it embodies, a period of change, optimism, and nation-building. Surviving high-grade specimens of the 1911 shilling are exceedingly rare, as circulation demands of the time meant that many coins were heavily worn through everyday use. A coin of exceptional preservation, displaying shimmering surfaces, precise strikes, and minimal wear, immediately distinguishes itself as a treasure of substantial market value. At $20,000, this shilling embodies both rarity and condition, elements that elevate it far beyond ordinary examples. that may occasionally appear on the market. From a financial perspective, the 1911 Australian shilling demonstrates the enduring strength of rare coinage as a store of value. Over the decades, early Australian silver coins have consistently held their appeal, serving not only as tangible artifacts of history but also as safe havens for wealth in the numismatic marketplace. Unlike modern issues produced in vast quantities, these Foundation-era coins are limited by their age, original mintage and survival rates, ensuring demand will always surpass supply. Owning such a piece is to own more than silver. It is to hold a symbol of Australia's formative years, a reminder of the transition from colonial roots to national independence. Collectors and investors who secure a 1911 Australian shilling in such superior quality are not just curating a collection, they are preserving a story, a legacy, and a piece of heritage that bridges the past with the future. At $20,000, the acquisition of this coin offers not only financial security but also the prestige of holding a cornerstone in the history of Australian numismatics. Next up, the 1912 Australian shilling occupies one of the most prestigious and fascinating positions in the field of Australian numismatics. Valued today at $65,000, this coin is far more than a monetary artifact. It is an emblem of national development, scarcity, and enduring desirability in the global rare coin market. Its importance cannot be overstated, as it represents not just a continuation of Australia's early, post-Federation coinage, but also one of the most elusive and coveted issues for serious collectors and investors alike. The obverse of the coin presents the portrait of King George III, crafted with regal precision, a monarch whose reign spanned a transformative period of world history that included the lead-up to the First World War. This portrait is instantly recognizable and yet, within the context of Australian coinage, carries a unique resonance as it marks the nation's gradual evolution away from its colonial beginnings toward a stronger and more distinct identity. On the reverse is the heraldic Australian coat of arms, its kangaroo and emu standing tall as guardians of the Commonwealth, flanking a shield that reflects Australia's early aspirations as a unified federation of states. These motifs, etched into the silver with exquisite craftsmanship, remind us of the values of resilience, unity, and progress that defined the young nation. What truly separates the 1912 shilling from so many of its contemporaries is its rarity. Unlike later issues that were produced in comparatively higher numbers, the 1912 shillings were struck in limited quantities, and far fewer have survived in high-grade condition due to the rigors of circulation and the natural wear that occurred over more than a century. Pristine specimens showing brilliant mint luster, sharply struck detail, and minimal handling marks are breathtaking rarities. They represent the upper echelon of collectability, and when such examples appear at auction, they command fierce bidding from both domestic and international numismatists. Market value is a critical aspect of this coin's prestige. At $65,000, the 1912 shilling demonstrates how scarcity and historical relevance merge to create a financial powerhouse in the collectible assets world. Over decades, coins from Australia's Foundation era have consistently outperformed more conventional investments, and the 1912 issue is a prime example of this trend. Investors recognize that the supply of such coins is permanently fixed. There will never be more, while demand continues to grow as appreciation for Australia's numismatic history expands across global markets. This creates a scenario where upward pressure on value is not only likely but historically proven. Owning the 1912 Australian shilling is an act of prestige and discernment. It is not a coin one encounters casually. It is a coin that anchors world-class collections and speaks to the collector's eye for heritage, rarity, and value. To hold it is to hold a fragment of Australia's earliest steps into its own identity, immortalized in silver. At $65,000, the acquisition of this numismatic masterpiece is more than a purchase. It is an investment in a legacy, a safeguard of wealth, and a celebration of history that continues to resonate across generations. Next up, The 1913 Australian shilling is another extraordinary piece of early Commonwealth coinage, a coin that seamlessly weaves together history, artistry, and financial value. With a current market valuation of $25,000, it is a prized asset that reflects not only the scarcity of high-grade examples, but also the enduring allure of Australia's formative numismatic years. As one of the early issues struck during the reign of King George V, it represents a continuation of a lineage that collectors hold in the highest regard. The obverse features the familiar effigy of King George V, dignified and commanding, a portrait that became the defining face of Australia's early coinage. On the reverse, the Australian coat of arms, flanked by the kangaroo and emu, continues its role as the heraldic representation of unity and national spirit. The intricate design speaks to the pride of a nation that was still finding its footing in the years before the First World War, but had already cemented its identity through a cohesive and symbolic currency. What makes the 1913 shilling so valuable and compelling to collectors is not merely its age, but its rarity and high grades. These coins were struck for circulation, meaning the vast majority were used heavily in commerce, subjected to constant wear, and eventually lost to time. Surviving pieces in exceptional condition are therefore scarce, elevating their desirability and market value significantly. To encounter a 1913 shilling that has survived the century with crisp definition, strong luster, and minimal abrasions is to encounter a treasure that belongs in the realm of elite numismatics. At $25,000, the 1913 shilling demonstrates the resilience of rare coins as financial assets. Collectors and investors alike understand that unlike bullion, whose value fluctuates with markets, the worth of a coin like this is anchored in its rarity and historical importance. These attributes ensure that demand remains strong, even in times of broader market volatility. For seasoned collectors, the acquisition of such a coin adds depth and prestige to their collections, while investors recognize it as a hedge against uncertainty, a tangible piece of wealth that combines historical narrative with financial security. Culturally, the 1913 shilling carries immense symbolic weight. It is a coin from a young nation that was asserting itself in the world, preparing to play its role on the global stage in the years ahead. To own it is to hold not just silver, but a story of identity, pride, and endurance. Every detail engraved into the coin is a reminder of the values of that era and a testament to the artistry of early 20th century minting. For those who pursue it, the 1913 Australian shilling represents both rarity and opportunity. At $25,000, it offers a chance to secure a cornerstone of Australian numismatics, a piece that bridges the divide between investment and cultural legacy. It is a coin that will continue to appreciate in esteem and value, a treasure that rewards its guardian, not only with financial strength but also with the intangible prestige of preserving a tangible link to Australia's past. Next up, the 1914 Australian shilling is a coin of exceptional importance, rarity and prestige, commanding a staggering market valuation of $90,000. It is not only a numismatic treasure, but also a living fragment of one of the most pivotal years in modern history. To hold this coin is to hold a tangible connection to a world that stood on the edge of monumental change. 1914, the year the First World War erupted and reshaped societies, economies, and nations forever. Struck in London during the reign of King George V, the 1914 shilling captures the gravitas of its era. The obverse bears the portrait of the king, a ruler whose image came to symbolize continuity, loyalty, and sacrifice throughout the war years. On the reverse, the Australian coat of arms remains proudly engraved, the kangaroo and emu flanking the shield, representing strength, balance, and the unity of a federation that was still young but already stepping into its global role. The symbolism of this design takes on added depth in 1914, as Australia prepared to commit its sons and resources to the battlefields of Europe in defense of shared values and national honor. From a numismatic perspective, the 1914 shilling is exceptionally rare in high-grade condition, Circulating coins of this issue were heavily used in commerce, and the vast majority that survive today exhibit considerable wear. To find a specimen in pristine, collector-grade condition, sharply struck, with full luster and minimal abrasions, is extraordinarily difficult. These superior survivors represent only a small fraction of the original mintage and are fiercely contested when they appear on the market. The market valuation of $90,000 reflects not only scarcity but also the extraordinary historical resonance this coin carries. It belongs to the select category of Australian pre-decimal silver coins that combine rarity, desirability, and historical weight in equal measure. Investors and collectors recognize that its value lies in the perfect convergence of these attributes. Unlike bullion or mass-produced modern issues, the 1914 shilling cannot be replicated or increased in supply. Its numbers are permanently finite, and its cultural relevance continues to grow as global appreciation of Australian numismatic heritage deepens. As an investment, the 1914 shilling is a model of strength and resilience. Rare coins with wartime significance have historically shown remarkable performance in the marketplace, both as tangible stores of value and as cultural artifacts that transcend borders. Collectors who acquire this piece are not only safeguarding wealth but also curating a story of courage, identity, and endurance. Its prestige within a collection is unmatched. It is the type of coin that elevates an entire portfolio, placing its owner in the upper echelon of numismatic custodianship. At $90,000, the 1914 Australian shilling is not merely a coin. It is an heirloom, a legacy, and a statement of connoisseurship. It is a piece that bridges the divide between history and wealth, a symbol of resilience in silver that has endured the trials of time and emerged as one of the crown jewels of Australian coinage. Next up, the 1915 Australian shilling is a coin of remarkable scarcity, historical resonance, and collector appeal, carrying a significant market valuation of $32,000. It represents a critical moment in Australia's early numismatic history, set against the backdrop of the First World War, when the young nation was forging its identity on the global stage through sacrifice and unity. Minted during the reign of King George V, the 1915 shilling presents the regal effigy of the king on the obverse, a portrait that conveyed stability and authority during a time of great upheaval. The reverse continues to showcase the Australian coat of arms, with the iconic kangaroo and emu guarding the shield, a proud emblem of nationhood that resonated deeply with Australians who were themselves defending their place in the world. The symbolism of this design, combined with the historical weight of its year of issue, imbues the coin with a significance far beyond its silver content. From a rarity standpoint, the 1915 shilling is among the most sought after of Australia's early shillings. Surviving examples are scarce, and high-grade specimens are particularly elusive due to the extensive circulation. These coins endured. Coins with sharp detail, brilliant luster, and minimal wear are exceedingly rare, and when they appear in the marketplace, they attract immediate interest from collectors and investors alike. The $32,000 valuation reflects the intense competition for such specimens and underscores the fact that this is not a coin one encounters casually. It belongs to the upper tier of Australian numismatic treasures. Its market value also reflects the long-term strength of pre-decimal Australian silver as an investment class. Coins such as the 1915 shilling are limited by their historical production and survival rates, ensuring that supply is permanently constrained. At the same time, demand continues to rise as collectors worldwide increasingly recognize the importance of Australia's foundation-era issues. This combination of scarcity and growing demand provides the conditions for consistent appreciation in value, making the 1915 shilling not only a cultural artifact, but also a solid financial asset. Historically, the coin is deeply tied to a period of sacrifice and resilience. By 1915, Australia had already suffered heavy losses in the Gallipoli campaign, and the spirit of the nation was being tested in unprecedented ways. To own a coin from this year is to hold a direct connection to that history, a small but profound relic that has survived wars, economic depressions, and the passage of more than a century. At $32,000, the 1915 Australian shilling is a statement of prestige and discernment. For the collector, it is an opportunity to secure a cornerstone of early Australian numismatics. For the investor, it is a proven store of value with strong potential for continued appreciation. For both, it is a legacy piece that bridges the world of tangible wealth and cultural memory. To possess this coin is to preserve not only a piece of silver but also a piece of history that continues to resonate with significance and pride. Next up, the 1916 Australian shilling is one of the crown jewels of the nation's early numismatic heritage, commanding an extraordinary market valuation of $110,000. Its rarity, combined with historical significance and outstanding desirability, elevates it into the upper echelon of Australian pre-decimal coinage. This is not a coin that merely sits within a collection. It is the kind of piece that defines and anchors an entire portfolio, admired by collectors, investors, and historians alike. Struck during the reign of King George V, the 1916 shilling carries with it the weight of wartime Australia. The First World War was raging, and 1916 was a year of profound sacrifice, with Australian troops enduring some of the most harrowing battles in France and the Middle East. The coin's obverse, featuring the resolute portrait of the king, symbolized leadership and continuity during an era of unprecedented upheaval. Its reverse bears the enduring Australian coat of arms, with the kangaroo and emu standing guard over the shield, representing the resilience and unity of a young nation tested in ways it had never imagined. Numismatically, the 1916 shilling is revered for its scarcity. Its original production was limited, and survival rates in high-grade condition are exceptionally low. Many of the coins struck were heavily circulated, subjected to the natural attrition of everyday use, and few escaped with their surfaces intact. To find a specimen that retains sharp strike detail, full mint brilliance, and minimal signs of handling is a feat of true rarity. Such examples are the holy grail for serious collectors, often achieving prices well above estimates when offered at public auction. The valuation of $110,000 is a testament not only to the coin's extreme rarity but also to its enduring market strength. In the world of collectible assets, coins like the 1916 shilling occupy a unique place. They combine the tangible qualities of precious metal with the intangible power of history, creating demand that transcends borders and generations. Investors who secure such a coin are not merely acquiring silver. They are acquiring scarcity, prestige, and cultural resonance. The supply of high-grade 1916 shillings is permanently finite, while global interest in early Australian issues continues to grow, ensuring that values remain resilient and often increase with time. From an emotional perspective, owning the 1916 shilling is to hold a piece of wartime Australia in your hands. Every detail on its surface speaks to a nation's endurance and identity at a time when it was proving itself on the world stage through courage and sacrifice. For collectors, it is a centerpiece of pride and heritage. For investors, it is a proven asset that withstands volatility and rewards patience. For both, it is a legacy destined to be admired for generations to come. At $110,000, the 1916 Australian shilling is not simply a coin, it is history crystallized in silver, unmatched in rarity and overflowing with significance. Next up, the 1917 Australian shilling, valued at $22,000, is a remarkable testament to the resilience of a nation still in the midst of the First World War. Struck in the fourth year of the conflict, it carries with it the echoes of a world at war and the pride of a young country standing resolute alongside its allies. For collectors, it is not only a coveted coin, but also a tangible piece of history, one that combines rarity, artistry, and cultural weight in equal measure. The obverse presents the portrait of King George V, a figure whose likeness graced Australian coinage throughout this era and became a symbol of unity under the Commonwealth. The reverse showcases the classic Australian coat of arms, a design that encapsulates the values of federation, the kangaroo and emu flanking, the shield, guardians of balance and progress. In 1917, this imagery would have resonated deeply with Australians, as the nation endured immense trials and sacrifices in the war effort, particularly on the Western Front. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1917 shilling holds significant appeal. While not as astronomically rare as its 1916 predecessor, it remains difficult to acquire in high-grade condition. Circulation took a heavy toll on the issue, and most surviving pieces are heavily worn. High-quality examples exhibiting strong strikes, lustre, and minimal marks are scarce and highly prized by collectors. These are the coins that consistently outperform expectations at auction, reflecting their desirability and enduring strength in the marketplace. The valuation of $22,000 highlights the balance between accessibility and rarity. It is a coin that sits firmly within the premium tier of Australian numismatics, yet it remains within reach of determined collectors who recognize its long-term potential. Unlike modern commemoratives struck in vast numbers, the 1917 shilling supply is permanently finite, and with every passing decade, the number of top-grade survivors diminishes. This dynamic ensures that demand continues to grow, pushing values higher and rewarding those who secure such a coin today. Culturally, the coin is imbued with profound significance. Issued in a year when Australian soldiers were enduring some of the harshest conditions of the war, it serves as a silent witness to sacrifice, resilience, and national pride. To own it is to possess a relic of that era, one that tells a story not just of silver and minting, but of human endurance and identity. At $22,000, the 1917 Australian shilling offers both prestige and opportunity. For collectors, it is an essential piece of the George Fouar shilling series, a coin that enhances the depth and completeness of any collection. For investors, it is a tangible asset with proven stability, a hedge against uncertainty, and a pathway to long-term appreciation. Above all, it is a legacy coin, a bridge between past and present, a rare treasure that speaks to history while securing wealth for the future. Next up, the 1918 Australian shilling is one of the most celebrated rarities in the entire spectrum of Australian numismatics, commanding an extraordinary valuation of $150,000. It is not merely a coin, it is an icon. For seasoned collectors and sophisticated investors, the 1918 shilling represents the pinnacle of rarity, historical resonance, and prestige. Few Australian coins achieve this level of status, and fewer still can match its sheer desirability in the marketplace. Minted during the reign of King George V, the coin carries the portrait of the monarch on its obverse, the steadfast face of empire, in the final year of the First World War. This alone imbues the coin with immense gravitas, as 1918 was the year the war ended, reshaping the world forever. On the reverse sits the Australian coat of arms, an enduring emblem of unity, progress, and resilience. The kangaroo and emu standing as guardians of the Commonwealth's youthful identity. These elements combine to create a design rich in symbolism, capturing both imperial continuity and national pride at a time of enormous global upheaval. What elevates the 1918 shilling above its peers is its breathtaking rarity. The mintage was extraordinarily limited, and survival in collector-grade condition is vanishingly scarce. Unlike other years, where collectors may reasonably hope to acquire an example, the 1918 issue is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Pristine specimens displaying radiant mint luster, sharp detail, and minimal wear are virtually unobtainable outside elite collections. This is the kind of coin that seldom surfaces publicly, and when it does, it immediately ignites intense bidding battles between the world's most prominent collectors. The market valuation of $150,000 reflects this rarity in action. It stands as proof that the 1918 shilling is far more than a coin of silver. It is a masterpiece of scarcity economics. In the rare coin world, value is driven not just by condition, but by the interplay of scarcity and demand. The 1918 shilling occupies the absolute upper tier of both, cementing its place as one of the most desirable Australian pre-decimal coins ever struck. Unlike many asset classes, where supply can increase with production, here the supply is immutably finite. There are only so many 1918 shillings in existence, and the number of those in superior condition is even smaller. Culturally, this coin is a treasure of historical narrative. It embodies the close of a global conflict, the endurance of a young nation, and the artistry of minting in an era that valued both function and symbolism. To own it is to secure not just wealth, but prestige, to possess a tangible link to Australia's formative years and its role in a world transformed by war. At $150,000, the 1918 Australian shilling represents the absolute peak of numismatic achievement. For collectors, it is a cornerstone that defines an entire collection. For investors, it is a proven, irreplaceable asset with global recognition and unmatched stability. For both, it is a legacy, an heirloom whose value lies as much in its story as in its silver. It is the embodiment of rarity, history, and prestige, destined to remain one of the most revered treasures of Australian coinage. Next up, the 1919 Australian shilling, valued at $28,000, represents an equally compelling piece of numismatic heritage, albeit with a different character. Issued in the first year of peace after the end of the First World War, this coin bridges the transition from wartime struggle to post-war reconstruction, capturing a period of profound optimism and resilience in Australia's history. The obverse depicts King George V, whose portrait had become deeply familiar to Australians throughout the war years. By 1919, his image carried a new weight, a reminder of survival, stability, and hope for the future. The reverse once again showcases the Australian coat of arms, a design that remained central to Australia's identity, with the kangaroo and emu continuing to serve as heralds of unity and progress. These images would have resonated strongly with a population emerging from years of sacrifice, loss, and endurance. Numismatically, the 1919 shilling holds strong collector appeal due to its scarcity in superior grades. While produced in larger numbers than the 1918 issue, the coin was heavily circulated, and very few examples have survived in pristine condition. The passage of more than a century has left the majority of specimens well worn, making high-grade survivors with full strike, luster, and minimal wear rare and highly desirable. Collectors prize these coins not only for their rarity but also for their place in the broader historical narrative of post-war Australia. At a market valuation of $28,000, the 1919 shilling demonstrates the enduring financial strength of rare Australian pre-decimal silver. Unlike bullion, which is tied solely to the fluctuations of metal prices, coins such as this derive their value from rarity, history, and demand. These factors ensure that their worth remains resilient, often outperforming more conventional asset classes. The finite nature of surviving specimens means demand will always outpace supply, and with increasing international interest in Australian numismatics, values are expected to remain strong. Historically, the 1919 shilling is deeply significant. It marks the first year of peace after the devastation of the Great War, a symbolic moment for Australia, as it stepped into a new era with both scars and pride. To hold this coin is to hold a fragment of that moment, a silent witness to the relief, renewal, and determination that characterized the nation in the aftermath of conflict. For collectors, the 1919 shilling is a vital part of the George V series, adding depth and completeness to any collection. For investors, it is a stable, appreciating asset backed by both history and scarcity. At $28,000, it offers prestige, opportunity, and heritage in equal measure. This is a coin that not only preserves wealth but also tells a story, one of resilience, unity, and the promise of a nation rebuilding in the wake of global upheaval.